Hey, what's up everybody? This is Suburbs501 and today I want to go over the best build for the ASH-12 in patch 12.9 of Escape from Tarkov. Now before we get into the video, 99% of you that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so make sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with all my Escape from Tarkov videos. And like with all of my builds, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith website where you can go and see all the parts you need for this build and see updated prices for all those parts on the flea market. Now before we get into this build, this is not one of the meta weapons of the game. This is not one of the top tier weapons that's going to be strong in most situations that tons of people are going to be using, but this is absolutely one of my favorite weapons to use, and I do think it is a pretty strong weapon if you know its strengths and play into those strengths. Now this is another one of those weapons that does not have a ton of options for modding it, but with that being said, some of the reasons I really like using this is that it is a harder weapon to use, so it's really satisfying when you use it correctly, play into its strengths, and win fights. The bullets of this thing are completely ridiculous. They'll one-tap to the thorax through tier 4 armor if I'm not mistaken. They still do pretty decent against higher tiers than that as well, and the base damage of these rounds are over 100, so absolutely ridiculous. It's one of the best sounding weapons in the game, and one of the best parts about it is hearing the casings come out of this weapon and hit the ground. This thing is kind of like shooting miniature like artillery rounds out of it. The bullets for this thing are pretty ridiculous. Pretty much everything else about this weapon works against it being a really good weapon. It doesn't have a lot of parts to be able to mod it, so it has pretty high recoil, sitting at 131 with the best build. The ergo's decent. The rounds for this thing being so massive, you can only get 20 round magazines, and a filled 20 round magazine is, if I'm not mistaken, 1.6 for the weight of it, making this thing incredibly heavy to carry around because the bullets are so massive that with my current strength, which I think is around 25, if I carry 6 total mags, including the one in the gun, I will be overweight if I have a full other set of, helmet, armor, backpack, and all that stuff. You'll be overweight so much that you have to stop moving to gain stamina. And the bullets and the muzzle velocity of this weapon are incredibly low, so it's not good at long range. So pretty much everything else works against it. That, in my opinion, is also what makes it really fun to use. So first off, for the sight, you can use whatever sight you want to use. The only things you have to determine when choosing a sight are what you like to use, what range you're going to be using the sight on, and how much the sight affects the weapon. With the muzzle velocity of this being 289, there's not really a way you're going to be using this at long range. So personally, I would always just be using a hollow sight or a red dot. I personally like using the EOTech XPS-30. Then we're going to be using a front and a rear sight to get additional ergo, and I'm using the Magpul M-Bus Gen 2 front and rear sights, which will both give 1 additional ergo. And then for the magazine, you have 2 options. You have a 10 rounder or a 20 rounder. Pretty much just always use the 20 rounder. Even 20 rounders for a fully automatic weapon, even though it's a low fire rate, is extremely low for something that's fully automatic. And then for the grip, we're going to be having the polymer ASH-12 foregrip on this. I think that comes on all of the Ashes, if I'm not mistaken, but that will be on there. And then on top of that, we're going to be using the Hera Arms CQR tactical grip. Now you can get slightly lower recoil going with a Zenit RK2, but I do think with the recoil this thing has, you're not going to get it to a point where this is the laser beam or has very good recoil anyway. So I'd much rather have the really high ergo, so at least the weapon outside of recoil controls nicely. Then for the muzzle brake, we're just going to be having the ASH-12 regular muzzle brake. Now I think this is one of the ways that this weapon could become much better, because right now almost nobody uses this thing. You only see some streamers like Landmark or something using this because they know how to play extremely well to the strength of this weapon. But one of the big reasons for I think this not being that great is because the attachments that it does have seem to go against most of the balancing in the game. Like this silencer, it only has 2 options, the muzzle brake or the silencer. And the silencer has much higher recoil on it than the muzzle brake does, but it also has a massive reduction in ergo. So the only thing you'd be getting with the silencer is it being silenced. And the weapon's already ridiculously loud, so I don't think that's going to make that much of a difference. And it just seems like they almost missed the silencer going with all the other stats of all the other mods and silencers in this patch, because for most other weapons in the game now, silencers give much lower recoil, but much lower ergo. This thing gives much lower ergo with a much higher recoil, so it doesn't really make sense. And then for the last part, we're going to be having a tactical device. Now, another thing that plays against this weapon is that you can't have a D-ball, which gives an IR flashlight and a normal flashlight, which in my opinion is really helpful for a lot of the game. So I'm just personally using the Burst 3 tactical device that gives you an IR flashlight and a laser pointer. If you think you don't need the IR flashlight, just go with a normal flashlight. That will be helpful as well, but you could pretty much use whatever tactical device you want to use. And that's the entire build of this weapon. Like I said, not a lot of parts you can change on this, but like I also said, this thing for me personally is incredibly enjoyable and satisfying to use. But that is the entirety of the build for the ASH-12. Like I said, there will be a link in the description to the Tarkov Gunsmith website where you can see all the parts for this build and get updated prices on the flea market for all of those parts. So subscribe if you want to see more Escape from Tarkov videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this ASH-12 build, and thanks for watching.
Да хули! Паренек сделан, красавчик! Вон он, вон он! Вон он, сука! Я с пацанами за такое не пёр. Да понятно, понятно. Вон он! Куда пошел? Граната тут! Граната! Вон он, сука! Да вот! Блять, в укрытие! Блядь, граната! Вон он уехал!